the MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
Just like that, fight week is upon us once again. We had a little week break there, but we're right back at it. We got UFC Fight Night 154 taking place in Greenville, South Carolina. Got a pretty exciting main event on this card. Looking forward to this fight. We got Renato Moicano taking on the Korean Zombie. You guys know the deal with both these guys, man, especially the Korean Zombie. You know, this guy's, when he's in there to put on a show. Win or lose, I mean, this guy's going to come. He's going to bring the fight. He could be dominating the fight. He doesn't want that W on his record. He doesn't just care about that. He's in there to entertain. I mean, you take a look at his last fight. He's winning the fight, has it in the bag, and he's sitting there in the end of the fifth round just trading punches, exposing himself to be caught with the spinning back elbow. But, he doesn't care about stuff like that. You know, he doesn't care if he loses. I mean, of course, I'm sure he does care if he loses, but my point is this guy's in there to entertain you. So you know what we're going to get in this main event. You know, and Renato Moicano, this guy, in my opinion, is a top fighter, top of the division, coming off a tough loss in his last fight to Aldo. Maybe Aldo exposed him a little bit. He didn't seem to like when the other fighter is just completely just going at him full fucking speed. I want to see how he takes it when the Korean Zombie's throwing leather at his face and bombarding him with punches, because that's what the Korean Zombie's going to do. I didn't really like his composure when Aldo was attacking him, but then again, Aldo is a whole nother beast. But, we'll get deeper into that fight as we break down UFC Fight Night 154. Throughout the card, we have a couple interesting fights here and there. We got Luis Pena, some of the new breed, taking on an old veteran of the game, Matt Handsome Wiman. Cool to see him back in the game. I'll talk a little bit about him and some of his fights in the past. Been watching him for years. We got Deron Winn, a.k.a. Daniel Cormier's pet Chihuahua. So we'll see how he does. I mean, a lot of people are high in this guy. He's 5-0. He has the wrestling background. He's taking on a tough dude, though, that's going to have a good height and reach advantage in Bruno Silva. This guy has hands. He puts people away. And then a couple different fights here. We got a rematch, Rob Font and John Lineker. We'll see how this one might be a little bit different than the last fight. We'll get into all these fights. But before we do that, let's take a look back at UFC 238. So I ended up going 1 for 2 once again. It's back-to-back events, 1 for 2. The teller's not happy with that. I'm not here to bat 500. I'm in here to be profiting, making good money. I'm here to win every fight that I bet on. So I wasn't happy with that. Things were looking great. Tony Ferguson, gets the victory against Donald Cerrone. That fight took place just as I stated it would. Really just unraveled just as I thought it would. Once they hit the second round, Ferguson just put that pressure on Cerrone. Cerrone didn't like it. You could tell he didn't like it. It's almost even questionable, man, if he blew his nose like that on purpose, looking for a way out of that fight, man. As a fighter nowadays, when you're feeling that pressure in your eye's starting to swell, you feel like you have shit all your nose, blood, not to hold both nostrils and blow as hard as you can like he did, which of course is gonna push air right up into your eye socket, blow your eye up. Amateurs know that. So I find it hard to believe that Cerrone didn't know that when he did that, but if that fight wasn't stopped, it was only going to get worse, and it was going to get finished in the third round anyway. So props to Ferguson. Another win. Just saw that fight going down just like that. Then we go to the main event. Marlon Moraes drops the ball, man. He comes out in that first round. I was pretty much already celebrating, just picking apart Henry Cejudo's legs, just looking crisp with the striking. You would think that he's just going to run away with that fight. The longer that fight would have went, I thought he'd be picking him apart worse and worse, and maybe even would have got a stoppage. But Henry Cejudo is a whole nother animal, and my respect for him went up more than anything through this fight, because to come back in the second round and to come back and get that victory the way that he did was just very, very impressive. So props to Cejudo. Other than that, how about the Valentina Shevchenko fight against Jessica Ai? That was nasty. When's the last time you seen a head kick like that, man? You guys let me know. Comment below. When was the last head kick that was like that? I literally thought Jessica Ai might have been dead. Actually, now that I think about it, what about that Rakic knockout, that nice win that we had a couple weeks ago? I guess we saw a head kick like that not too long ago. But Valentina, man, she's just on another level. I really want to see her matched up against somebody that's closer to her level. I stated this in the last breakdown. I said this was a mismatch, and, it played out exactly how I thought it would. Just a disgusting mismatch. Poor Jessica Eye, man. I mean, that girl, she's going to have some problems after a knockout like that. On a positive note, I picked Blagoy Ivanov to take out Tai Tuivasa, and I saved a lot of people money. I appreciate all you guys sending messages, sending the thank yous over. I knew that was not a good fight to bet on, man. People were telling me they were going to throw a bunch of money on Tai. They were getting them at like minus 140, 150, whatever it was at the time, 160. I told them, stay away from that fight, One of my only regrets is I did not jump on that Blagoy bet when I could have got him at plus 155, and I second-guessed myself and just kind of wanted to stay away from that fight. That was a mistake by me. I should have jumped on him at the plus 155 odds and capitalized on that because I had him winning that fight. Of course, by the time it was fight night, the odds were almost pick 'em. But I was happy that I was able to keep a bunch of you guys from betting on Tai. Aljamain Sterling, man, he looked good. I picked Aljo to win that fight. Pedro Muniz, tough guy, but Aljo's looking really good right now. Tatiana Suarez, look at her wrestling, man, just absolutely disgusting. Peter Yan, what a beast that guy is. Overall, it was just a very solid card, a very good card. But as I said, went 1 for 2. And, the teller's not happy with that. So, I'm going to look to rebound, moving forward. And, like I said, I'm not here to break even. I'm here to make you guys big money. And as you guys see what I do in past events, that's what I do. That's what I bring to the table. I pick winning fighters, man. And when I leave a fight event, I want to be up at least 1 to 2, if not 3 fights in the card. That's usually that's what I do. Sometimes on the average card, I'll be 3 for 3, 3 for 3, at least 2 for 1. We got to make money here. So I may not have the most fancy YouTube videos. As you guys are listening to this right now, and you can look at my video. It's not even a video really, it's just an audio with a picture. That's what I'm about right now. In the future, I may look to make it more fancy and maybe add some types of fight video breakdown as I talk about it. But I got to be careful, man, because there's copyrights out there. I already had an Instagram taken down for posting videos, and I would love to do all that. But basically what I'm getting at, that's not what the teller is about. The teller is about making you guys money, about being the number 1 capper in regards to MMA in the world. And that's basically it. So, if you guys want to show me anyone else out there that's third-party tracked that is putting up more units on MMA than me, then please comment below. I would love to see it because no one's doing what I'm doing. I'm telling you, I'm breaking even on these last 2 cards. You should see what some of the other top cappers are doing on these cards, because these past couple cards have been a little bit shaky. You should see what some of these top cappers are doing. I see some of the you guys know them very well. I'm not even going to say their names. Some of these big cappers that all you guys watch their videos, they're going 0 for 3. And you guys are paying ridiculous amounts of money for their picks too. So don't get it twisted, man. The teller is the number 1 capper in the game. Check the numbers. Check my capper tech. And just understand that. So, all right, I think it's about time we'll start moving forward to UFC Fight Night 154. Before we start getting into each of these individual fights and start breaking them down, I think it's important that I'm completely transparent with you guys. And I want you guys to know this card overall, in regards to as far as a betting aspect to this card, it's not the best. I'm telling you guys right now. So I don't want you guys listening to each fight breakdown and just like ready to jump the gun and make bets on each of these fights. I'm telling you right now, remember, in regards to making money on betting MMA, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of traps on this card. There's a lot of tricky and questionable fights. So I'm telling you right now, just don't be too eager to make a bunch of money on this card. Of course, you know how the teller does it. We'll be patient. We'll find our spot. We'll make a little bit of money on this card, and we'll move on to the next. When the right card comes about where there's plenty of money to be made, we're going to capitalize and clean the bookies out. But I'm telling you right now, be very careful with this card. So, all right, take that into consideration. And then let's get to the first fight. We got Andre Ewell taking on Anderson dos Santos. Man, where do I even begin? This fight, when the odds were announced, you could have grabbed Anderson dos Santos at about a plus 230. And I saw that, and it caught my attention immediately. Because I had this fight capped about even from the get-go. So when I saw that plus 230, you had to jump on it. Honestly, before I was able to break down video and really get a real grasp of how I felt about this card, I did feel like Andre was probably the better fighter, or was more likely to win if these guys were to fight. Since then, I was able to really, really break down tape on both of these guys, and the plus 230 was just absolutely ridiculous. Shout out to anyone who grabbed that, because that's where it's at right there, man. That's how you make money long term. That's the real way to do it. You got to be watching these lines and capitalizing them. So, the plus 230 was ridiculous. Of course, over time, everyone caught on to it. Now it's basically exactly where this line should have been from the beginning. It's a pick 'em. Anderson Dos Santos, man, he's a tough, well-rounded fighter. Andre Ewell has a lot of holes in his game. He's an athletic, quick-twitched, fast type of fighter, but, has a lot of holes in his game. Anybody that was putting money on him at a minus 305 or in the minus 200s or even the high minus 100s, I don't know what kind of drugs you guys are smoking. Obviously, not a lot of people were doing that. That's why the line went the other way. But still, whoever opened that line, shit, man, I don't know what you guys were looking at. I really feel like Andre he's in a hype job. A lot of people like this guy for some reason. I don't know, because he's kind of athletic, he's a quick fighter, and people like that type of fighter, and they want to have money on the more athletic guy. Sorry, that's just not always going to transfer over to W's, because, when you're not technically sound the way that Andre is, you see the way he throws his punches. He leaves his chin up on a silver platter after he, throws his hands, just waiting to be counterpunched. You saw that in the Nate Wood fight, where Nate Wood just fucking took his ass out, hit him with a nice shot, ended up grabbing his neck, choking his ass out. But yeah, for whatever reason, this guy Andre was just hyped up, man. I remember seeing him on some of the embeddeds. They mixed him in for whatever reason. He was talking about he's going to be the next big thing. I don't know if that had something to do with it, if people were getting confused for some reason just of him talking, thinking he's like the next Conor McGregor just because he opened his mouth. I'm sorry, man. You got to have the skills to back that up. And I just don't see this guy Andre having the skills to back it up. I think he has a padded record, 14-5. You look at some of the guys that he's beaten. They have losing records. Almost maybe they're even fighters. Just as many wins as losses. He's not really beating top guys. Then he has a split decision win against Renan Barão, which is another reason why he's probably hyped up, because at that moment in time when he had the split decision win against Barão, that was really before it all unraveled that Barão was completely washed up. So some people might have thought this guy was, an up-and-comer, took Barão out, split decision win, which he really didn't even look that good in that fight. He hit Barão with that counter punch and dropped him, but couldn't even put him away, and then ends up getting taken down right after that by Barão and controlled on the mat. So, in retrospect, we know that was a shell of Renan Barão. So, I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm not a big fan of this guy Andre. Don't get me wrong. Anderson Dos Santos is not the best fighter out there. He's a tough journeyman, has a solid record, 20-7. His last fight took on short notice against a tough dude in Nad Narimani, who's a very strong wrestler. So, no shame in that. He honestly, I think he had a decent performance based on the situation. Like I said, very well-rounded. He has good jiu-jitsu. Striking's decent. He has some Muay Thai. He has wins over solid opponents like Ricky Simon, who you guys are familiar with him. He'll be fighting Uriah Faber coming up soon. And if you look at the guys that he has losses to, because he has some losses on his record, at least if you check these guys out, you look into it, they're solid fighters. These are guys with nice records. If you're able to watch some tape of some of the guys he's lost to, they're solid fighters. They know what they're doing in there. So, he had losses to guys like, Syed Nurmagomedov. He's a decent fighter. So this will be a good fight to gauge where he's at in the game. He's had, full notice of this fight, full training camp. So I expect Anderson Dos Santos to come out and use his grappling, his jiu-jitsu game to maybe get a takedown and control Andre and win this fight. It's a very close fight, though. Like I said, Andre is an athletic fighter, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's able to use, his speed advantage and all that and pull the fight off. I will take Anderson Dos Santos to win this fight. Excuse me, guys, my crazy little parrot screaming outside in the back. She's going to pipe down for the rest of this card. But, Anderson Dos Santos to to use his grappling and control the fight on the ground and pull off the victory. All right, up next, we got an interesting fight. We got two UFC newcomers. We got Winn taking on Bruno Silva. For those of you guys that are familiar with Winn, he's only had 5 UFC fights, 5 MMA fights up to this point. But this guy, a lot of people are familiar with him through AKA, good friends with Daniel Cormier. You see him a lot, side by side with him. Very tough dude, very good wrestling, has a solid wrestling background, but very undersized for the weight classes he likes to fight in, whether it's light heavyweight or middleweight. I mean, this guy he's built very strangely, kind of like a little miniature Daniel Cormier. I mean, we've seen that Cormier, he's gotten away with it. I mean, he's one of the best to have ever fought in the cage, but, has a different type of body style. Winn, though, I think he takes it to the next level. I mean, this guy, being 5'7", and I think that's even being generous that he's listed at 5'7". I think he might even be shorter than that. To be fighting up at the light heavyweight weight class, even the middleweight weight class, it's crazy. But I mean, so far he's been doing his thing. He's won all 5 fights. But here's the thing: the first 4 guys that he's fought, complete cans. He's just getting warmed up in the mixed martial arts game, just padding his record. His last fight, he did beat Tom Lawler, but you know what? And towards the end of that fight, his gas tank didn't look to be the best. You could see the size of Lawler wearing on him a little bit, but he did do what he needed to do to pull off the victory. This guy, Bruno Silva, this guy's no joke. As I talked about what he's been doing recently, especially, this guy just doesn't lose fights, and he has heavy hands. He's putting guys away like Alexander the Storm Shlemenko, and he's just putting away a lot of guys, even mixed in mostly just knocking dudes out. A lot of TKOs, a lot of KOs. Pretty much finished almost every single guy that he's fought in the last 15 fights. So, from the tape I was able to watch, there was a big red flag, though. There was a fight against Moise Rimban, actually his only loss in his last 15 fights, and I didn't like the way that fight transpired. I mean, this guy, Moise, however you want to pronounce it, controlled him for the greater part of that fight and then ended up getting the Kimura, which is really an elementary type of submission. I mean, you shouldn't really open yourself up to subs like that. So, I mean, I don't know how you want to go with this. I mean, you got Deron Winn, who's a pretty hefty favorite. He's up in the 200s, minus 200s. And he has the wrestling pedigree. And he's proven that, at least to this point, that the size, doesn't really matter to him. He's going to be in on your legs. He's going to be right up on top of you, going for takedowns. And I may think that the line's off in this fight, but I do have to favor Deron Winn to win this fight. Until proven otherwise. Let's see how far this guy can push it. Trains at one of the best camps in the world, AKA. I mean, he has a guy like Daniel Cormier, on his hip, side by side with him, one of the best to ever do it. That goes a long way. This guy, Bruno Silva, he's trying to hit his stride and step it up to the next level. But, I don't know. I don't want to have any money on this fight, like on a guy like Winn, just based on, the X factors and how this fight may transpire. But, when it comes down to picking who's going to win this fight, you got to lean with the guy that has the wrestling pedigree, like, Deron. That's something that I rely heavily on. I like to have the fighters that have the stronger grappling premise, the guys that are very good wrestlers. I mean, it goes a long way to winning fights. It really does. And I could see Deron getting some takedowns and sealing off rounds like that. So, I'll take Winn to win this fight, but don't be surprised if Bruno Silva, if somehow he's able to stuff the takedowns and really just use his reach and his reach advantage, his height advantage, and maybe just pick Deron, from the outside, pick him apart. So we'll have to stay tuned to see how this fight transpires. But at this point, I really don't want to have any money on either of these guys. There's just too many question marks. So I'll just be sitting in the back seat, just seeing what goes on with this fight, taking notes, planning for the future in regards to these guys. So, but we'll take Deron Winn to win this fight, though. Next, we got the chicks throwing down. We got Molly, the meatball McCann, taking on Arianne Lipski. This fight's kind of interesting. I think this fight might end up being a pretty exciting fight in regards to women's MMA. I think these girls are going to trade some punches. Might turn out to be an exciting matchup. As far as betting-wise, it's another fight, man. I really don't want to touch it. I favor, I'll get right to the point. I mean, I favor Lipski to win the fight, but the odds went up the roof. I mean, I'm not going to put money on a girl like her, man, at minus 270, minus 260. I'm just not going to do it. I've seen her taken down and controlled on the mat before. I don't like that aspect of it. And everyone just thinks that, Molly McCann, she's just going to go out there and just throw her hands. That might not be the case. I mean, you saw her in her last fight against Priscilla Cochoera, who, of course, is a horrible fighter. But, she showed that she has a little bit of grappling in her back pocket. So, there's just too many question marks at odds like that. I do believe that this fight will take place on the feet, however, and I do see Lipski getting the better of the striking. I really like what I've seen from her as far as her striking goes. She throws the punches, mixes in the kicks together very, very nicely. Very well-rounded striker. I don't like the way that I've seen her mopped around the mat, though. Joanne Calderwood controlled her a little bit and just out-savvied her in that fight. Before that, she had a nice win streak going, but, she's had a bunch of losses before that. Or maybe not a bunch of losses. I mean, she had 3 losses within a 5-fight window before that. So, and some of the girls that she's beaten, I mean, not the best of fighters, but, again, it's women's mixed martial arts. I just don't see the value. I mean, if you were able to grab Lipski way earlier, maybe get her around the minus 145, 155, 165, somewhere around there, then maybe, yes, it was playable. Other than that, though, at this point, it's definitely a dog or pass type of fight in my eyes. Molly McCann, everyone likes to talk trash about this girl, but, she's young. She's probably going to get better every time she's in there. There's room to grow for sure, but she definitely has hands. I mean, she's quick with the hands. She has decent head movement. She's in and out. She throws her hands well. So, I mean, I wouldn't be overly shocked if maybe somehow she dropped Arianne with her hands and maybe was able to do something with that. I don't necessarily see that happening, but I'm just saying this fight, there's just too many question marks. So, again, this is a fight, I'm going to have nothing to do with it. If some of you guys see something out there and you feel confident about it, comment below. If you want to put up, a bunch of money on this girl at a minus 240, 250, let me know. Comment below before this fight happens. I want to see who's making bets like that, because you got to be careful. In the long term, that shit's going to bite you in the ass. So, but yeah, I'll take Arianne Lipski to win this fight. I think maybe she'll win this fight just due to her striking. I think she'll out-volume Molly and use her reach advantage to outpoint her on the feet. All right, for this next fight, I highly recommend you're focused in on the TV, sitting your ass down, because this fight, it's probably going to be a knockout. So if you guys like seeing that type of action, I think this is the fight to go to. We got Alan Crowder taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. These guys, like I said, big boys, heavy hands. They'll engage. They like to fucking brawl it out. So, a lot of people are on this guy Rozenstruik. Undefeated. At the moment, he's 7-0, has a bunch of finishes. Does have a split decision victory over Andrei Kovalov, he's a tough fighter. The guy's good. It's actually his only loss is to Rozenstruik, so he's a tough dude fighting over there in Ryzen. Alan Crowder, first time I really started watching this guy was the Dana White's Tuesday Contender Series fight against Dontel Mays. Showed really good heart in that fight. I mean, dropped a couple times. That fight, almost finished, back and forth. He comes back and gets the TKO finish. So, Dontel Mays, big dude too. Big old dude, big boy, has power. So showed some heart in that fight. He has some questionable losses on his record. Actually, really only one questionable loss. The guy Ryan Pocafarelli. Other than that, he had the TKO loss to Curtis Blades. You guys know the deal with Curtis Blades, solid fighter. So, people are underestimating this guy, Alan Crowder, man. This guy's tough. He's a big boy. He could put it together. Again, he's fighting a guy that's really, we haven't seen enough of him. I mean, if you guys want to put a bunch of money on a guy like Rozenstruik at minus 220, 235, I mean, I get it. He's 7-0. He has the power. He's putting guys away. But you never know with fights like this, man. You really don't. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what happens if Alan somehow is able to take this fight to the mat and get on top of Rozenstruik and hold him down? Because let me tell you, with a guy like Rozenstruik, that shit could happen, man. A guy that's really, he's not that polished. His grappling is not the best. You get a big boy like Crowder that somehow he fucking trips him down, gets a takedown in the clinch or something against the cage, lays on him, gets him tired, gassed out. Next thing you know, Rozenstruik's power is irrelevant because they're just completely gassed. And Crowder's maybe mixing in takedowns, somehow falling on top of him. Maybe he has the better cardio in this fight. I don't know. At this moment, I really don't want to have any action on this fight either. I'm not that type of gambler, man, when it comes to mixed martial arts. I don't want to just be flipping coins, praying that my guy shows up and does that for those type of odds. I don't see the value. I'm picking Rozenstruik to win this fight. Yeah, I mean the way that he's moving right now, 7-0, he's finishing everybody. I could see Crowder getting finished by him, but I could see this fight going a couple different ways. So, I'm not going to spend too much time on this fight. I'm sure there's a bunch of you guys that are going to have action on Rozenstruik too, I'm sure. So, and it could be a trap fight, like I said. Be careful. But, it may not be a trap fight, though, at the same time. Maybe Rozenstruik comes out there and just does his thing and puts this guy Crowder to sleep. Maybe he shows the more athletic guy and just has the more crisp striking and just outclasses him. Stay tuned to see what happens. I don't know. I don't want any action on this fight, so we'll move on to the next fight. And this is a fight I'm actually very much looking forward to. I don't know about you guys. I feel like those of you guys that have been around the game like I have from years and years ago, I think this is a fight you would appreciate in its own right. You got Matt Wiman taking on Luis Pena. And I think what makes this fight so interesting is that Matt Wiman's from a whole different generation of the lightweight division. He's going to be coming off a 5-year layoff. So although, it's not good that you haven't been in the cage, you're going to have some ring rust and whatnot. But at least, he's been rested up. He hasn't been taking damage. And this is a guy that when he was healthy and he was in there, he was a very well-rounded fighter. He had victories over guys like Mac Danzig, Cole Miller, Shane Nelson, Thiago Tavares, Justin Buchholz. Those were the typical lightweight fighters back in the day, man, the 2008, 2010 era, between that time. So, he had losses to guys like TJ Grant, but don't forget, TJ Grant, he was next in line for the title shot up until he had that whole thing with the concussion and had to retire from MMA. So, he was losing to solid. If he had losses on his record, they were to solid lightweight fighters. Jim Miller back in that time, one of the best fighters in the division. Sam Stout was solid. Like I said, it was just a whole different era. But he's going to have the experience in there. I don't care if he hasn't been in the cage for 5 years. This guy's 35. I'm sure even though he wasn't fighting in the UFC, he still was around the game, still learning. Like I said, had time to rest his body. But I've seen Matt Wiman take guys down and just absolutely just fucking elbow smash them up in their guard. This guy, he's a well-rounded guy. You leave your neck open, he's going to choke you out. But he's fighting a guy in Luis Pena who is, this guy, he has the hype behind him for a reason. This guy has the reach. He's tall for the weight class. He's athletic. As I said, he's put in the work training over at AKA. I like his desire. You follow him on Instagram. This guy, he wants to be a champion, and I really like that coming from him. But as far as where the line's at, I don't know. There's just so much. There's such a big question mark. Who is this guy? What Matt Wiman is going to show up in the cage? Who knows? Is he going to be the same fighter that was in his last fight against Isaac Valley Flag? Has he gotten better since that time? Or is the ring rust just going to completely just make him look like a fool out there? Is he just going to be completely out of his element? The game just passed him on? I don't know. But, I'm not really willing to throw some money on Luis Pena at minus 360, minus 390, minus 400. I'm not throwing money on him at those types of odds. A lot of you guys already learned the hard way in the Michael Trezano fight. Everyone was so high on Luis. Michael Trezano, he outpointed him on the feet and won a close decision. Luis comes in there in his last fight against Steven Peterson, but Steven Peterson, that guy's he's a punching bag, really tough dude, but that guy, anyone could beat Steven Peterson, really. I think Matt Wiman would beat Steven Peterson, so, that's not really saying too much. Same thing with Richie Smolin. He beat Richie Smolin before Trezano. Richie Smolin's not a good fighter. So what are you really basing all this off of? Luis really hasn't had a reputable win. And for whatever reason, the UFC is pushing this guy. They're giving him setup fights like this against a guy with a name, Matt Wiman, coming off a 5-year layoff. But I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with this fight. Is the crafty veteran, the guy that's been out the game for a while, does he come back and just, does he outsmart Luis Pena? Does he get takedowns somehow? I don't necessarily see that happening. Luis has a pretty good wrestling pedigree himself. I think he'll stuff the takedowns. I think Luis will probably outpoint Matt Wiman on the feet. And, I don't think he gets the finish, though. I think Luis Pena will win a decision. Maybe you want to parlay him in something. If you guys are interested in a leg in a parlay, maybe maybe Pena has a good opportunity to match him with something. So, yeah, I'll take Pena to win this fight, but we'll see, man. I'm hoping and I'm rooting for Matt Wiman. I hope a guy from the old lightweight division, he comes back in, and it'll be a cool little clash of guys from different eras. So I hope Matt Wiman comes in and somehow gets a takedown and starts dropping some elbows and maybe pulls off the sub. That'd be awesome for me to see. But I don't necessarily see that happening, though. I think Luis Pena will win this fight. Next, we got a tough one to call. We got Dan Ige taking on Kevin Aguilar. I'm high on both these guys. I mean, these guys are both solid fighters. And, in the right situation, I would jump on either of these guys' train just to make some money. So, Dan Ige, very strong grappler. Good fighter, well-rounded. His striking is getting better and better. Kevin Aguilar, this guy just doesn't lose. 17-1. His only loss was early in his career against, what the hell was that guy? Leonard Garcia, the wild dude used to throw down. So, that was a long time ago, man. Since then, he's really put it together. And I've been high on him ever since I don't want to say that, actually. I was going to say I've been high on him since the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender fight. But, that was really a close fight. Split decision win. But he did come through, made me some money on that fight. But the fight was a little bit closer than it needed to be. But he showed real perseverance. He came back from being dropped. And since then, man, he's beat guys like Rick Glenn and Enrique Barzola, two solid fighters. So he's doing his thing. Dan Ige, very solid fighter, on a 3-fight win streak over Mike Santiago, who's not the best of fighters. But then after that, he beats two guys, Jordan Griffin and Danny Henry, both solid fighters, very good fighters. So, and before that, he loses to Julio Arce, who I'm very high on. I think Julio Arce is a very good fighter. He probably beats both these guys, but, that guy, a lot of potential. I think he's a Tiger Schulman fighter. It's a trip too, man. If you guys were studying tape on this fight, I don't know if any of you guys were watching that Julio Arce Dan Ige fight, because those guys are identical twins, man. It's kind of crazy. One's a Puerto Rican and the other one's a Hawaiian, Polynesian type of dude, Dan Ige, and they look identical, man. If you forget which guy's wearing what color trunks, just by looking at their faces, there's no way you could remember which guy's which, man. Just like straight up doppelgangers. But all right, but nevertheless, Dan Ige, this guy is a very solid grappler. If this guy gets a hold of you, if your takedown defense isn't on point, he's going to throw you down to the mat, and he'll fucking rip your head off, man. He'll take you rear naked choke you. He can guillotine you. He can do all that type of shit. Very, very good jiu-jitsu. But stylistically, it's going to be a little bit of a tough matchup because Kevin Aguilar, he has good takedown defense, and he's a tough motherfucker, man. He'll sit there. He'll trade with you. Solid boxing. He'll sit there. He'll win the better of the exchanges when he strikes with guys. That's what he does. There's not a lot of guys that are going to go out there and just beat him when they're exchanging punches. At least up to this point. And he's beat decent guys too, man. Damon Jackson, like I said, Rick Glenn, Enrique Barzola. The one guy that did get the better of him on the feet was Leonard Garcia, but the deal with him. He throws haymakers and he connected with something. But that was, quite a while ago, 2013. We're talking 6 years ago. So, I don't know. Who do you guys want to go with in a fight like this? You want to take the grappler that might not be able to get the fight to the mat, or you want to take the guy, Kevin Aguilar, that has the better striking probably, should be able to stuff the takedowns, hopefully. Shit, I don't know, man. I've been back and forth on this fight, so I'm going to make a decision right here on the spot because I really haven't been able to make a decision up to this point. I'm going to go with Kevin Aguilar. I'm going to go with Kevin Aguilar. Just made that decision as of right now because I've been back and forth on this fight. I think, as I said, I think Kevin Aguilar has good takedown defense, and I think he'll be able to keep this fight standing and edge out a close decision. If this fight does hit the mat, if Dan Ige is able to pry him down to the mat, I can see him possibly pulling off a submission or controlling him enough to win a decision. But I don't necessarily see Dan being able to win this fight on the feet. It might play out close, but I'll edge Aguilar to win this fight on the feet. I think a lot of close exchanges, but Aguilar will he'll have the stronger, heavier hands in there, good head movement, and just a tough motherfucker. So, yeah, we'll take the angel of death, Kevin Aguilar, to pull off a very close fight. And, again, a fight that I don't necessarily want to bet on unless I get this at the right value because you're flipping a coin with these guys, man. I recommend you stay away from this fight. If you guys favor a certain fighter, comment below. I would love to hear what your guys' opinions are on this fight. But it's a very close fight, hard to call, So, all right, moving on to the next fight. We got some low-level women's MMA taking place in the strawweight division. We got Ashley, the Spider Monkey, Yoder taking on Syuri Kondo. Really haven't been overly impressed with either of these girls from what I've seen in there. I just really haven't been impressed, especially in regards to Syuri Kondo. This girl is very, very inaccurate with her punches. The girls that she's beat, she started off her career 6-0, just a complete padded record. I mean, those girls that she's fought, losing records, just horrible fighters, man. Really just not on the level, even for women's MMA, just not on the level. So, scratch that right there. And then she gets, finished by Poliana Botella, who she's a tough Brazilian chick. She gets finished. Maybe you don't want to hold her under the magnifying glass for that loss too much, because if anyone gets hit with the right shot to the liver, like the way she did, you can't really blame them for folding up. But it was a little bit suspect. But really the problem is, man, with her accuracy. I'm telling you, the accuracy of her punches is just not up to par. And if Ashley Yoder, if she could pump the jab, and I've seen her accurate with her punches at times, certain times in her fights where she's thrown some crisp counter punches. The red flag is she does leave her chin up to be counter punched as well. But, at least when she throws her punches, she does have the ability to pinpoint her punches. So I do like that aspect. And I don't even know if Kondo can return, with the counter punches, because she's so inaccurate herself. So I'm going to lean Yoder to win this fight. And right now it's a pick'em. So depending what you want to do with it, I still have questions about this fight because I don't like to trust girls like this. I've seen Yoder backpedaling an entire fight and just not pressing the action and lose decisions before like that. So, she's suspect as well. But, she is aggressive off her back and has decent jiu-jitsu. If Kondo somehow shoots in for a takedown, maybe she could sprawl and somehow take Kondo's back somehow. I've seen her, she's pretty aggressive off her back with her jiu-jitsu game. I see why she gets the name the Spider Monkey. But, again, man, do you want to have your money on some women fighters like this? It's questionable, Realistically, if you're abiding by the rules to make money long-term, you just completely stay away from fights like this. But I'm going to take Ashley Yoder to win this fight. And I guess at least you are getting it at pick'em odds if you want to have some action on it. I think this fight will take place in the feet, and I think Yoder will be a little bit more accurate with her punches and pump the jab to win this fight. All right, up next, we got Kevin, the Trailblazer Holland, taking on Alessio Di Chirico. This fight really just captivates the entire card of what the premise of this whole card has been from the beginning, man. This card is a lot of question marks. Kevin Holland is just the epitome of a questionable fighter. You don't know who you're going to get in there. He plays games, but at the same time, he shows some good athletic ability, and really he shows some skills, man, with his jiu-jitsu game and his striking. He's just very unorthodox. Alessio Di Chirico, this guy's shown some potential as well, but there's some big question marks with him. So, Kevin Holland coming off a split decision victory against Gerald Meerschaert. That's a fight that could have gone either way easily. Matter of fact, I kind of saw Gerald winning that fight. Gerald was, he had a lot of control time. He was on top of him. So, you got to watch Kevin's takedown defense and how he's kind of complacent, pulling guard, laying on his back, trying to do a little tricky shit off his back. I didn't like that. And then you got this guy, Alessio Di Chirico. This guy he's a real true gladiator. This guy, his bloodline comes from that lineage, this Italian dude. So 29 years old. He seems to be getting better in there every time he fights. He's evolving. His jiu-jitsu game is getting better. He got finished by a pretty amateur, triangle choke from Eric Spicely. But Spicely, he has solid jiu-jitsu. So don't hold him to the fire too much, but, he has to evolve with his jiu-jitsu game. Looked good in his last two outings against Bambos. Finished him with the KO. Nice knee. Had the split decision win against Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez is a tough, solid fighter. So I liked what I've seen from him in that aspect. This fight's going to be tricky. Let's see. Where's the line at in this fight right now? We got it at... Let's see... Yeah, Kevin Holland, he's like a minus 220, 235 on some of these books. I don't know if I wouldn't want to roll the dice on him at that type of, where the line is at right now. I do see Kevin probably being the more athletic guy in there and more well-rounded with the jiu-jitsu. I could see him outpointing him on the feet, but I would not be surprised, with Alessio's, his tight-knit striking, if he's able to slowly outpoint him, maybe be a little bit more conservative and a little bit more professional in there and able to win a close decision fight. But I'm going to lean Kevin Holland to win this fight. Don't get me wrong. I don't like where the line's at, though. I don't want to have any part of this as far as betting on the favorite in this fight. I don't see any value. But like I said, I'll take Kevin Holland to win this fight. I think it'll actually, go to a decision, but I think it'll be an exciting fight. I think there'll be some opportunities for finishes. I have a feeling it's still going to go the distance, though. But maybe there's some value with Alessio as an underdog. Maybe you guys want to look into that, but I'll be taking a step back. I won't have any action on this fight. Right, we're flowing right through this card, and we hit a nice one right here. We're gonna stop the bus and take a look into this fight. We got Montana De La Rosa taking on Andrea Lee. This is a fight I'm interested in. I like both of these girls, man. Both these girls have a lot of potential. I've liked what I've seen from them so far at this point in their careers, especially from Andrea Lee, KGB. Her nickname is. She's 10-2. She's looked very, very good to me. Besides. She had 2 losses. She had a split decision loss against Roxanne Modafferi. At that point in time, man, she only had 2 fights on her resume as far as her professional record went. So, she was very green. The deal at Roxanne, man. She's a crafty girl, man. Even at that point, I'm sure she had plenty of fights. She's been around from day one. So, split decision. You can imagine exactly how that fight took place. So other than that, she had the submission. She got rear naked choked by Sarah D'Elio. That was one little mistake. But since then, she's really put her game together, man. You could see her game just completely rounding out. Great takedown defense. She can mix in takedowns. Her striking is very well above par. She's a solid chick, man. She had a tough fight in her last outing against Ashley Evans Smith, taken down at certain points in time, but continuously got back up and really liked what she does in the clinch. When she clinches girls, man, and she fucking throws nice fucking knees right up the middle. Very, very nice knees. So, and I think those knees are going to play into effect in this fight. I think that, she's going to throw some brutal knees and elbows in the clinch. And the striking is where she's going to have the edge against Montana De La Rosa. Montana De La Rosa, on the other hand, let me talk about her for a second because I'm high on her as well. This girl's 24 years old. She has good height for the division. She's a tough chick, man. This girl, you could tell she's a real fighter. You know what I mean? She's not like one of these chicks that just somehow fell into MMA and she's polishing up her skills. This girl, this is the type of girl you picture, after school and middle school or high school that's waiting at the park to fight some other bitch over some guy and is, grabbing her hair and fucking hammer fisting the side of her face. You know what I mean? This girl, you could tell she's a real fucking fighter. This is a girl that she would win fights. And now she's polishing up her fighting skills and she's really becoming a solid women's MMA fighter. I like her jiu-jitsu game. Her grappling is fucking good, man. She's solid. Looked very good in her last fight. She just completely outclassed Nadia Kassem. Got the armbar victory in that fight. Looked good against Rachel Ostovich in the fight before that. And her 2 losses are against Cynthia Calvillo and Mackenzie Dern, 2 of the best women fighters out there. Those were her 2 losses as of recently. So, no shame in those losses. And again, you guys know I always talk about this, man. The age is a big factor. 24 years old. She's going to look better every time she gets in there. She's probably polishing up her striking as we speak. And, her striking's going to look better every time she gets in there. I don't think it's going to be enough at this point, though, to beat a girl like Andrea Lee. I think Andrea Lee, she's just way more polished. She's 30 years old now. Her game is it's rounding out very nicely, and this is her time right now. So I got Andrea Lee to win this fight. I think she can do whatever she wants. She can keep this fight standing, and she'll outpoint Montana on the feet. That's actually the way I see this fight going. I don't see Montana being able to get the fight to the ground where she really has her main chance to win this fight with her jiu-jitsu, maybe grabbing a sub or controlling her. But, as far as the line goes, you guys had to jump on this line earlier, man. So hopefully you guys were messaging me, getting this insight earlier, because at this point in time, I don't know if it's worth it. You're going to get Andrea Lee at minus 225, minus 230. It's up there. If you would have jumped on this earlier, you could have got it, in the minus 150, 130. It was very much playable. Even minus 165, not too long ago at all. So But like I said, keep an eye on both these girls, though, as far as moving to the future. These girls are very good, and expect to see these girls in the mix at the top of the strawweight division in the women's mixed martial arts 125-pound division. But I'll go with Andrea Lee. I'll pick her to win a decision. I don't think she's going to stop Montana. I think Montana's a tough bitch, and I think she's going to survive the fight and even do some damage, in her own right. So it might end up playing kind of close, but I think no matter how it goes, Andrea Lee is going to win this fight. All right, up next, we got Bryan Bam Bam Barbarena taking on Randy Rude Boy Brown. This is an interesting fight, especially based upon the line, too, because Bryan Barbarena is a hefty favorite, and it's always funny to watch this guy step in there because, it doesn't have any muscle tone to him. He doesn't seem that athletic. But, as you see, this guy fighting out of the MMA lab, this guy's a very well-rounded fighter. He has wrestling. His striking's very good. His chin is up there with the best of them. This guy's chin is just straight up granite. So, you're not going to just put this guy away that easy. It takes a lot. You saw that in the Vicente Luque fight. That fight played out very close, very closely up until the point it was finished. But, and he only loses to very good fighters, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, Vincent Luque, as I talked about. And then he fucking beats, he beats everyone else that he's in there with. Sage Northcutt, Waller Alves, Joe Proctor. Jake Ellenberger, at that point, obviously, Ellenberger was done. But he's a tough dude, man. He's well-rounded. And it's crazy to see him as this much of a favorite against a guy in Randy Brown, who's going to be more athletic, quicker, maybe has a little bit better striking, possibly. But the deal with Randy Brown is, first off, if you look at the guys he's lost to, they're all solid guys too, man. Nico Price, Belio Muhammad, and Michael Graves. For those of you guys who are familiar with Michael Graves, he's a solid fighter. I think the only reason why he's not even in the UFC right now is based on some domestic violence type of crap or something like that, because he's a tough dude, man. That guy's a real, American top team original fighter who's been around the game. So, and, Randy Brown has already shown that he's better than guys of like Mickey Gall and Brian Camozzi. He's on that next level. But is he on the level of Bryan Barbarena? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think he's going to be able to use his athleticism or striking to even win this fight. I think Bryan Barbarena will mix in his grappling. He'll eat Randy Brown's shots to get in close and land his own, and he'll bully Randy Brown. I really think he'll bully him in there, especially with some of the guys that Bryan's went up against as of recently. He's going to look at Randy Brown like he ain't shit, and he's going to go in there and, he's going to really feel confident that he's the better fighter, and I think that's going to give him a nice, solid advantage in there. As far as the line goes, I'm not touching this fight either. I'm not. I wouldn't even put this as a leg of my parlay. I don't think it's worth it. It should be a little bit closer based on, you never know what's going to happen in there. Maybe Randy Brown's able to circle, move around, pump his jab, and, use his striking, maybe even connect with a nice shot. Of course, I talked about Bryan Barbarena's chin, but, there's only so many shots you can take. You never know. Any shot could put you out. So I think that this is a gamble, really, if you're taking either guy. So I'm staying away from this fight. But I expect Bryan Barbarena to go out there, like I said, and expect himself to be the better fighter and just kind of bully Randy Brown. Randy Brown's coming off a nasty KO punch, finish as well. So, these guys are both coming off finishes, or being finished, excuse me. Both these guys that were finished in their previous fights. We're going to see who's the more mental tough fighter, that's in there. And I think Bryan, he comes off to me like the guy that's going to be very mentally tough. He's not that last fight that he got finished in is not going to faze him. He's going to come right back in there, look to win the fight. I could see a guy like Randy Brown a little down on himself, a little hesitant in there. He's kind of a hesitant fighter as it is. So I'm going to take Bryan Barbarena to win this fight. Up next, we got the co-main event. We got a rematch. We got John Hands of Stone Lineker taking on Rob Font. We all know John Lineker won the first bout. That fight was a long time ago, though. That fight took place in 2016, over 3 years ago. It was in May of 2016. Lineker won the unanimous decision. Since then, Rob Font's came a long way. I feel like he's rounded out his game a lot more since then. He's really shown to be a tough fighter, especially as of recently. Looked good in the Sergio Pettis bout. Really used his reach advantage in that fight. Finished Thomas Almeida. Looked really good in that fight. He pretty much only loses to, guys at the top of the food chain. The Rafael Santos, Pedro Munez. And then, of course, he lost to Lineker in the first bout. The X factor in this fight is going to be John Lineker is taking this fight on short notice, so you have to take that into consideration as well. He's coming off a split decision loss. I don't think Lineker, obviously he's not happy with the way that fight ended. Could have gone either way. And I think he wanted just to jump back in there and get a victory. But you have to be careful, man, because if his cardio is not up to speed, Rob Font's going to be pumping that jab, using the reach from the outside, and his footwork's getting better. Hopefully this fight doesn't end up playing out similar to his last fight against Corey Sandhagen. Now, I don't necessarily think it will. I think Corey Sandhagen I think he's a very good fighter. I like the way he moves around. Very similar to Dominic Cruz. I think he might be a little bit a step above Rob Font. But don't be surprised if that's the case. That's my point. I mean, Rob Font's been training for this fight for a while now. He's going to be in great shape. He's going to be a better fighter than he was the last time they fought. So I think Rob Font definitely has a solid chance to make the outcome of this fight a little different than the last one. I am going to favor John Lineker to win this fight, though. He's already beat him. I think that that's going to go to his head. I think he's going to be very confident in there, and I think he's going to be pissed after his last split decision loss. And I think he's going to go in there to take Rob out. And even if he doesn't get the finish, I think it's going to look good on the judges' scorecards. He's going to be walking Rob down. He's going to be throwing bombs. I mean, you guys know how this guy does, man. He's a complete savage. He goes in there to just decapitate these other fighters. So, yeah, I'm going to take John Lineker to win this fight. I don't know if he gets the knockout. Obviously, it's definitely possible with a guy like him. But I think he's going to bully him around the octagon in this fight. So, yeah, I think he wins the rematch once again. All right, we got the main event of the evening. We got Renato Moicano taking on the Korean Zombie. You guys know this is definitely the most anticipated fight of the card, obviously. There's going to be fireworks in there when the Korean Zombie's stepping in there. Moicano, just one of the top guys in the division, really just a true stud. He had a little bit of a setback in his last fight against Jose Aldo. He was looking crisp in there as the fight started out, but he kind of showed a little bit of a hole in his game. He doesn't seem to like when he gets swarmed with punches, because as soon as Aldo just started just bombarding him with that attack, he looked like he kind of froze up a little bit, and he really didn't compose himself. I would have liked to have seen him clinched up, held on to Aldo, try to tire out Aldo, let that fight hit the later rounds, because that's really when Aldo starts to fade and you can start to pick him apart. So some bad game planning on that as well. But other than that, before that, he was on fire, just looking very, very good. His only other loss was to Brian Ortega, and that was a fight he was dominating before he got caught with that one sub. So just definitely a top-notch fighter. The Korean Zombie, this guy, bro, this guy fights. He has an X factor with him, man. He's not scared of anybody. He's coming in there to take your head off. He's underestimated at times. He had that little layoff. He had to do a military service back in Korea. Steps in for his first fight returning to the UFC. Gets a nasty finish over Dennis Bermudez. Gets the finish. First round finish. Looked very good in that fight. And then in the Yair Rodriguez fight, he's winning that fight, winning on the scorecards. Could have easily cruised to victory, but just showed his true warrior spirit and was just exchanging with punches to the last second of the fight. In the fifth round, gets caught at the 4-minute and 59-second mark of the fifth round by a nasty elbow from Yair, who, props to Yair, man. I had some money on him in that fight as well. Came through with that last second elbow. But just a true testament to the warrior that the Korean Zombie is, man. This guy, he's in there to entertain. He's not in there just to sneak decisions out. So this fight's going to be a war. And one of the X factors to pay attention to is that the Korean Zombie, I feel like he's going to try to bombard Renato the same way Aldo did. So I'm hoping this time, for Renato's sake, that he's more composed in there and, game plans better and lets this fight, go to the later rounds where he can, use his striking, because he has very, very good striking, very technical in there. If a guy's going to go in there and trade with Renato for 5 rounds, not a lot of guys are going to beat him because he's very, very technically sound. He's going to pick guys apart. Very, very good striking. He's a well-rounded fighter as well. I definitely have to lean Renato to win this fight. But again, the X factor is the Korean Zombie just going in there looking for a finish and maybe just overwhelming Renato. I don't necessarily see that happening, though. I got Moicano winning this fight. This was a play that I was kind of on from the beginning. So depending where you guys were able to get this with the odds, because a lot of money came in on Renato, and so you're not going to get it at the best value as of right now. Right now, I mean, you're looking at minus 190, minus 200. I mean, this was something you could have got a lot more reasonable, a while back, minus 170. Even minus. It started out minus 120. Props to anybody that jumped on it at that point. But yeah, I think this is Moicano's fight to win. I think he picks the Korean Zombie apart. And obviously, the Korean Zombie has showed issues with his chin as well. He's been knocked out by George Roop. One time, George Roop hit him with the head kick, coming off a knockout in his last fight. So I could see Renato, connecting with a solid punch and maybe putting Zombie's lights out. Either way, I'm pumped for this fight. Definitely looking forward to seeing this main event. Comment below. Let me know what are your guys' plays. I love to see what you guys are playing. Make sure you post that before, the day, at least a couple hours before the fight starts. You know what I mean? We don't want to see no bullshit. Make your comment now. You know what I mean? As soon as the video is posted, let me know who your plays are right now. Let's see it. So the proof's in the pudding. We can see it dated. Who you pick to win. You know how I roll, man. I can't stand people that talk about, I played this and show cards after their plays after the fact. The deal with the teller, man. Everything has to be transparent. When you're as good at picking fights as I am, you don't have a problem with that. The people that have problems with that are the guys that are really, they don't know how to pick fights, long term, and they don't know how to win money the way that I do. But, if you guys think you're good at what you do too, man, comment below, man. I love to see other studs out there that are picking fights, making money. I've been very excited that the way this channel's been moving forward. A lot more you guys are starting to comment. I see the growth in the channel. A lot more people are subscribing. I'm excited, man. Eventually, I want to have, so many comments that I'm not even able to read all of them, man. You guys keep commenting below. I want this to be the, the center of, us as a group, all conversating together as a community to profit and make money. That's what I'm about, man. We all use our knowledge together, and we profit, man. We clean these bookies out because, mixed martial arts, unlike any other sport in regards to gambling, I feel like it's the most bulletproof, man. If you put the time in on the tape, if you know what you're looking for, you can definitely, no questions asked, you can profit long term. I'm a testament to that. Check my Capper Tech. You see for over a year now, I'm profiting constantly over time. There's not a lot of people that can do that with sports like baseball, basketball, football. I do like college football. That's one thing that I'm very good at gambling on as well. So when college football season comes, don't hesitate to message me about college football bets. But in regards to other sports, man, they're all very, very flaky, man. They're not as pure as fighting, man. Fighting over the long-term period, I'm telling you, if you know what you're looking for, you can definitely make money. So shout out to everyone else that's making money the way that I am through mixed martial arts gambling. And as I said, man, comment below. Let me know what's up. Let's make this money. You guys enjoy the fights.
MMA for
signing out, the teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.